Today I'd like to talk to you about the 11 coverages that you need to think about as a home health agency. First is property insurance. There's a couple categories within property insurance that you need to think about, although home health agencies tend to be a little bit lighter on property insurance. But you got to think about your buildings, you got to think about desks, chairs, and computer equipment, that type of thing. And if you got to think about business income and extra expense in there. The next thing you should think about is crime. Crime is like property insurance, except what we're talking about is an employee either stealing money from the organization or from your clients. This is something that's really unique to home health agencies, is that you've got caregivers in somebody's house. Well, what if one of your clients has a lot of money or a lot of jewelry and they think that your caregiver stole something? That's crime. It's theft of clients' property. So you got to think about crime insurance. Third coverage to think about is general liability insurance. This is bodily injury and property damage that you cause to other people or organizations. There's a couple of key carve-outs in that particular coverage that are really important to home health agencies. Fourth coverage then is abuse and molestation. This is one of the exclusions in your general liability policies. If one of your clients comes back and says one of your caregivers either physically or sexually abused them while they were on the job, that's abuse and molestation liability insurance. It's really important for you and your organization. And then another exclusion in your general liability that leads to your fifth coverage you got to think about is professional liability. This is somebody accusing you of lack of care. And when you're a home health agency and you're providing care to people in their homes, maybe you're helping manage medications, maybe you're helping people get on and off the toilet, helping with activities of daily living. There's a lot of situations where somebody could say you did not provide the level of care that you said you would provide. That's professional liability insurance. The next thing to think about, the sixth coverage, is auto insurance. And there's two components to auto insurance. One is the vehicles that you own. Not every agency owns a vehicle, but almost every agency I work with has caregivers that drive to and from the client's house. Sometimes your caregivers will even provide transportation to your clients. This is a category called hired and non-owned auto insurance. So even if you don't own a vehicle, you still need to think about auto insurance. Next, you got to think about workers' compensation. This is the seventh one. If you have paid caregivers or if you contract with people, you have to think about what if one of those caregivers gets hurt on the job. If it's a paid employee, it's very clear, you need workers' compensation. If you're paying people on a 1099, that doesn't mean you don't need workers' compensation insurance. Most times, if you have a caregiver, if you have an independent contractor, if they don't have their own workers' compensation insurance and get hurt working on behalf of your organization, you're still on the hook for their medical bills. So that's workers' compensation insurance. Eighth coverage to think about that doesn't apply to every agency, is more for nonprofits, would be directors and officers liability insurance. This protects your board from management of the operations. It can apply to for-profits too if there's multiple owners, but the most common claim with directors and officers insurance has to do with misappropriation of funds, misdirection of the organization, which leads into another management liability coverage. This is going to be our ninth one, employment practices liability. This is coverage for your organization for hiring and firing. So maybe if somebody says, hey, you didn't hire me because I'm black, white, Latino, gay, I like wearing blue pants and you don't allow me to wear blue pants and that infringes on my religion. That's employment practices liability. But another key component of employment practices liability has to do with potential discrimination against clients. See, you may or may not take on a client based on the level of care that they need. You may or may not be equipped to handle them. And if they say that you're discriminating against them and refusing to serve them, that's a discrimination type lawsuit. That's something you need to think about within employment practices liability, and it's called third party acts. The next coverage to think about, we're at 10, is cyber liability insurance. You're handling a lot of medical information, and there's a lot of threat actors out there coming for that information. Names, date of birth, email addresses, social security numbers, credit card information, all kinds of personally identifiable data. So you need to be thinking about cyber liability insurance for your organization. And lastly, if you're a nonprofit, you've got volunteer caregivers, think about accident medical, because volunteers are not covered under workers' compensation insurance. And if one of them gets hurt providing care to one of your clients, you may want to see that they've got some money for their medical bills. So there you go. That's 11 coverages to think about with your home health agency. If any of this has you asking questions about your current program or broker relationship, and you want to talk to somebody with experience in your field, please reach out to us at www.bitnerhenry.com and request a quote. I'm Daryl Henry with Bitner Henry Insurance Group, and we serve those who serve others.